During this movie, I got so scared. But you know, I'm a bit of a wimp when it comes to horror movies. But I got so scared during this one that a couple of times I had to look away from the screen, which was hilariously ironic because, of course, this is a movie about an invisible man. There's nothing to see up there. But in fact, there is so much to see up there. That's how good Leigh Whannell is as a filmmaker. He made me terrified of empty shots. It's not just jump scares, though. I don't mind jump scares, though. I prefer jump scare movies when they're really well done to torture porn. But, you know, this is just such a good movie. It's so good. But speaking of horror stories, imagine being Leigh Whannell and knocking this movie out of the park, having upgraded. You know, speaking of upgrade, his directorial debut, that was for Blumhouse's Tilt distribution label. And nobody saw that movie because most people didn't even know about it. You should watch Upgrade. Although maybe not too close to this one because there are similarities. You can see why he got this gig and did a fantastic job, but he gets a big studio movie with Universal and he does an amazing job for them. And then they advertise it with a really bad trailer and like whole ad campaign that paints it as a generic stalker movie about a toxic white male, when in reality, it is a highly innovative movie about a toxic white male stalker. But you know what? It's hilarious because, of course, that's a really difficult space to be in right now. But because we don't want to paint all guys with the same brush. Not all guys obviously are the same, just as all women are not the same. Everyone is their own unique little snowflake. But speaking of, you know, individuals, there are some weird ones out there on both sides, right? Men and women. And here we are dealing with the male variety of weirdo. And Leigh Whannell, a man himself, handles this delicate situation with incredible sophistication, crafting a story for all audiences. You know, we don't want to say all guys are toxic, obviously, but to say that none exist would also be a falsehood. And on that note, I think that women will find an extra level of horror and truth to this movie. I mean, I hope nobody dismisses it because of that, because it's a story that I think everyone can enjoy. Well, you know, enjoy is a weird word because it's so scary and horrific. But I think that women, you know, sadly, every woman has the experience of having to deal with aggressive, unwanted attention and to be on guard for an assailant that you have no idea if they're there, you know, or you're just being super paranoid, and also how some people react to that fear. There was recently a really good conversation about how women, even in 2020, are more vulnerable, both how they feel and actually are more vulnerable, you know, walking alone themselves at night and being by themselves than a man is, which I thought was a very interesting conversation. What are the better uses of social media? And I think this movie plays into that. You know, you don't know if there's someone out there, you don't know if you're in danger, and you don't know what might happen. But here, the sci-fi twist on that situation, that very real situation is that while usually, you know, while I hope this never happens, obviously, to anyone, but you would never see your assailant coming. That's the fear. Here, you'll never see your assailant ever. And I think that extra layer makes it like really a scary movie. Very, very scary. But again, it's scary for everybody. You know, nobody wants an invisible man bothering them, as you'll see. So on the face of it, yeah, I mean, if you were just like at face value, this is a movie about a man who invents a way to turn himself invisible and then uses that to terrorize his ex-girlfriend. And it sounds dumb and overly dramatic, but the reality is that it's anything but. Whannell, who for a long time was James Wan's writing partner and sometimes star, has already proven, as I said, that he's a talented director with 2018's Upgrade. He himself can direct just like, you know, he's not at James Wan level, but he's getting there. He's very, very good. And he proves that Upgrade was no fluke, that he's the real deal, because The Invisible Man is masterfully written and directed. It's so good. I mean, like, especially if you're into filmmaking, like this is a film, like this is a cinephile's movie, because it operates so impressively and so, you know, it gets so much bang for its buck. We'll talk about the budget in a moment, but it's really amazing. This is the kind of movie that made Blum famous as a producer, and he's a producer here as well as he was on Upgrade. And that you know, a movie doesn't have to be really expensive to be really well made. And Jason Blum has done a lot to prove that with people like Leigh Whannell. But anyway, Whannell here, script-wise, has created a clever trap where characters don't make stupid mistakes like they usually do in other horror movies. Here, they genuinely find themselves with no other options. And what he dreams up for what an invisible man can do, and on the flip side, how you can potentially deal with an invisible person, is very, very, very clever. Again and again, I saw no way out for the characters, which made the movie even more terrifying. Oh, so good. Then as a director, Whannell uses the camera incredibly well, re-teaming with his upgrade cinematographer, Stefan Ducia. You'll be like, is something there? I don't know, something's there, oh my God. It's very well used. It's like, I wonder if he storyboarded the hell out of this, because if he did, it was worth it. It's very well constructed. You know, sometimes some directors will just do a lot of coverage. They'll shoot a scene from a lot of different angles, and they'll let the editor fix it in post, assemble it. But here, Leigh Whannell knows what he wants, and what he wants is very good. The framing is so smart and meticulously planned that Whannell doesn't need a big VFX budget to sell you on what's happening. The movie was made for a mere $7 million, and it still manages, by the way, to have a big, satisfying third act action sequence, like a couple of different locations. It was really good. Now, in addition to his camera work, which, as I said, is quite strong, Whannell once again has an incredible score that does a lot of the heavy lifting. I was wanting to see if there was an end credit sequence. If there is one, it's invisible. Hilarious, never gets old once you like the movie. But I was listening to the score even over the end credits, and I was like, wow, this Benjamin Wallfish is good. Different composer than Upgrade, but very, very good. And also, like Upgrade though, spotlights an amazing piece of architecture. Like, wow, what a house. That also pluses the movie in a very cost-effective way. Location, location, location. The whole movie is just incredibly well thought out. From the brilliantly artistic opening credits, as soon as you see it, you'll be like, this is going to be a good movie, to the ending that was so shockingly clever, I laughed out loud in the screening room. I couldn't help myself, and that's all I'm going to say. A lot of the credit also goes, it's very much the Leigh Whannell show, but Elisabeth Moss does a really good job, having landed one of the best female roles of maybe even all time, but certainly of recent memory. She's really, I would say you could classify her as a modern Hitchcock blonde here. Isn't that cool that Elisabeth Moss would be a Hitchcock blonde? I really like it. But while she does do an excellent job, never once during the movie was I like, only Elisabeth Moss could play this character. Instead, I was like, other actresses should be very upset with their agents for not getting them this role, because it's really good. But I think someone else could have done just as good a job. But it has to be a certain kind of actress, because Whannell was right to cast Elisabeth Moss. You know, the famous saying goes that 90% of directing is casting. And Moss is not your typical damsel in distress. She's a Hitchcock blonde, but she, of course, has a very different image than who Alfred Hitchcock cast in his movies. I think Grace Kelly could have done this, though. I know maybe the Hitchcock blonde would have worked here. He had very, very smart actresses in his leads as well. But although there's, I don't know, Elisabeth, there's a lot, I don't want to give anything away, but there's like a little bit of an exchange that I thought was very interesting in the way they handled it. I liked it a lot. Elisabeth Moss was well cast, because her presence makes the movie seem even smarter, more relatable, more grounded, and also her physical build lends credibility to some of the action that she's asked to do. I'd say, in terms of female leads in like action-y movies, she's closer. You know, she's a Hitchcock blonde mixed with Sigourney Weaver in Alien or Campbell in Scream. Although Naomi Campbell was also good, but I could see someone else playing that role too. Only Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, I think, is irreplaceable, and that's very much to Weaver's credit. But yeah, again, the Hitchcock glamour and attention to detail are there, because the movie around her is very Hitchcock, and I am a huge Hitchcock fan, which I think added to my enjoyment of this movie. The rest of the cast is also very good. I really liked Aldous Hodge in What Men Want. I thought he really stood out there, and here he gets even more screen time. Storm Reid, I thought that A Wrinkle in Time, while I'm glad that Ava DuVernay discovered her, I thought that wasn't a great role or a great movie. But here, I think Storm Reid proves she has a career beyond that first film. I think she's very likable as Aldous Hodges' daughter. And like Tessa Thompson in the Creed movies, she has an amazing manicure. You are like, your nails look amazing. It's distracting. So on one hand, you have to wonder if you want to pull focus like that, but I think it works. And Michael Dorman, I don't want to give too much away here, but he is electric. Then as for Oliver Jackson Cohen, where do we know him from? The Haunting of Hill House. You see very little of him in this movie, so you might not make the connection. But for the time that he is on screen, he makes Adrian a complex, truly terrifying character rather than the cartoonishly angry ex-boyfriend that Hollywood usually presents us with. Harriet Dyer, I thought she was the only weak spot in the cast. I think she could have done more with what she had. So yeah, you should definitely see The Invisible Man. It's amazing. It's in fact even better than Upgrade. So I can't wait to see what Leigh Whannell does after this. He is improving. And I think he should definitely be put in the same group of horror directors as James Wan, his former collaborator, M. Night Shyamalan, although Leigh Whannell can stick the landing, and Jordan Peele. I think that these horror auteurs, the current generation, they're doing very exciting work, and Leigh Whannell deserves to be amongst them. So that's my spoiler-free review of The Invisible Man. Share your own thoughts down below, but don't put any spoilers. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.